Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Literacy View Takeaway Tuesday episode. And this one is about the episode we had with Dr. Nathan Clemens, Misunderstandings of the Science of Reading. So just like we did last time, we are going to go through our takeaways for teachers, administrators, parents, what the research nugget is, and something that we think that could help with student outcomes. So, Judy, I'm going to start with advice for the teacher. Do you have a takeaway from this latest episode that really stood out for you?
All right, so this is going to be a real quick one, Faith, but this is a really important one for me from that episode. I continue to be a firm believer that pedagogy is key. Programs come and go. Today, this is hot. Tomorrow, this is not hot. But guess what? Good practice is good practice. Pedagogy is key. So keep learning about how to teach kids how to read and write. Keep learning about what it means to be explicit and structured. Keep learning about what it means to teach kids to decode words really well, because whatever program comes and goes, you will always have that knowledge and be able to help kids. That's it for me.
All right, so cool. My takeaway actually was near the end of that episode when Nathan started to talk about stretch text. And if you remember, he mentioned that he compared it to working out in the gym. And he said that stretch text is like when we gain strength and stamina when we exercise. And I think teachers should be aware that when they're giving kids something to read, that it's okay to stretch them a bit as long as they're giving feedback and support. And it's very important so kids will grow. You can't get any stronger unless you do something to shake it up. It's the same thing with reading. So that's my takeaway. I love that one at the end.
That's a good one, Faith. That's a good one.
Okay, honey, let's move on. So the administrator, what is your takeaway for an administrator or a leader in a school district?
All right, so here's one from Clemens. There's a tendency for things to go a little wildly out of control. And when individuals tend to grasp onto a movement like this or become caught up in it, there sometimes is that tendency to have perceptions around and group effects around nations that we only want to take in information that confirms to the way we want to see the world. And any debate or any contrary evidence is viewed as invalid, is viewed as only argumentative. And we tend to dismiss things that may not fit the way we want to see the world. So guess what? Sometimes the things we learn in literacy are not what we actually kind of believed, and we have to be comfortable with things that make us uncomfortable. For instance, we had, phonemic awareness. For a while, we were doing things in isolation. We weren't connecting things to letters fast enough. Guess what? It might have made some of us uncomfortable, but we needed to shift. So sometimes research shifts. Another example is with sound walls, right? We found out that, the way we were implementing sound walls with putting 1 million pictures on our sound walls might have not been the most beneficial for kids. Now we got hit with some people saying, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's working for my kids. Well, maybe it is, but there's not enough research to support that that's 100% the best approach. The research was saying we should focus more on the actual orthographic mapping and the sounds things make, and maybe pictures connecting with those sounds. So guess what? You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Interestingly enough, mine is similar. All right. So we pulled out something similar. And if you remember, Nathan asked the question of administrators that they should think about what exactly, when they're looking at programs, not to just believe things Just because they hear SOR, science of reading, with this label, that he said you should be asking, can you give me the studies? Ask what the evidence looks like. Because, yeah, things are wild and out of control. So, publishers are going to try to respond to what they think is the hot topic right now. Judy, as you mentioned, for a while, it was sound walls. It was phonemic awareness activities that were disconnected from letters. So as soon as they think that's what, is driving the market, that's what they're going to put out. So administrators have to be very careful and ask the right questions. So I think mine aligns right with yours. So next one up.
One last thing though, when you see, you're still going to see these misconceptions in the field. Don't be afraid to speak up. I might have to speak up. My district is coming tomorrow. They're going to look at sound walls. I can't wait to hear about what we all have to say about it. So even though there are misconceptions, sometimes we have to be confident enough to, speak up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, it's very easy to fall into a pattern of thinking when somebody says, oh, it's, science of reading, that we don't question it. But it's so easy to just slap a label on something when there's not that evidence to support it. So, thank you, honey. You're giving me a cheers. I'm giving you a cheers right back. Here we go. So, next one, parents. What would you tell parents after listening to this episode? What's a good takeaway for parents?
All right. So for parents, here's one for me. The episode dealt a lot with fidelity versus integrity, but this was the key point that I took away for parents. Think about it. Does the program that your child have at school have practice? Whatever you're being asked to do with your kids, does it involve having kids read? Does it involve having kids spell words and actually continuously reading text? Obviously, there's going to be other important things to do for kids and learning to read. But above all, does it involve abundant practice in them reading words, spelling words, and reading text? And guess what? Make sure that it's all integrated with writing too. Writing should not be the forgotten pillar of literacy instruction. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop.
You're going to laugh. Guess what?
Don't tell me you got the same thing.
I pulled out the same thing. And
that is so weird.
Yes,
so
because we don't talk before, but so I want to just say something.
Yeah, tell everybody. We don't even plan this. We literally, this is how we do Takeaway Tuesdays. We have a week to reflect on the episode. Then we have to dissect it on our own completely separately. I have no idea what Faith is going to say. Faith has no idea what I'm going to say. So hit it, Faith.
Yeah. So I wrote down, I said that parents, when they are looking to advocate for their children, what are they looking to do? Don't just ask for a program. You should know that you should be fighting for explicit instruction in letter sound correspondences, word reading integrated with spelling, and lots of application and practice. And so we were on the same page. And to leave you with one last thought, parents, Nathan Clemens was very clear about saying that we have as many answers as unanswered questions, right? And so be careful that what the evidence does say and what it doesn't say. And it's very easy to fall into this and say, well, I want X program. Know what it is your child really needs and be clear about that, because school districts are not fond of asking for a particular program. But if you're clear on what your child needs, then, you could have this conversation and leave the program out of it. All right.
And be careful with what they're offering your kids. They might be offering something that's actually not the best support. Like if they're offering your kid something like LLI, which is not evidence-based and doesn't align with the research, just because they're saying they're giving your kid help, it might not be the right help. So dig deeper, ask questions, don't be afraid. And I'm giving Faith a major cheers right now. Faith, you're just rocking it tonight.
Because I'm saying what you're saying.
No, you could totally disagree. You could call BS on me at any time.
All right. Your research nugget, Judy. What would you say?
All right, here goes my research nugget. You know, we all want things to work out in the way in which we hope they do. But certainly from a standpoint of interpreting evidence, it's so important to look at it as much as we can from an objective standpoint. I say a lot of things in my talk, said Nathan Clemens. You know, understanding the science of reading is understanding what the evidence says, but also understanding what it does not say. So remember again, the research might say something you like. The research might say something you agree with. The research might say something you don't agree with. You might be doing something that's working well, but never forget about what is the research actually saying right here, right now. And you know what? Faith's been a real big, honest advocate of speaking the truth. Sometimes we ruffle feathers on the literacy view, but that's the point. That's the point. We have to speak the truth. The truth is the truth, right, Faith? What do you say?
The truth will set you free. So here, my little nugget that I pulled out was that there are relatively very few studies that focused on specific branded programs. That's what Nathan Clemens said. It's something I knew already, but the evidence is on different components. But there are very few that are really focused on the whole program. You don't really have a lot of evidence for a program. So people aren't going to like that, but it's true. So, you know, a lot of these programs, when they say, oh, it's SOR, you know, and they slap a label on it, it's the actual instructional practices that might have evidence, but the program as a whole might be a disaster, truthfully, because they're throwing in so many
with you today
that are mixed in with that.
I'm falling in love with everything you're saying today. We're having a love fest today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow might not be a love fest, but
No.
right now I'm loving it. I am loving it. This is hot stuff, Faith.
All right. So now the wrap up is for student outcomes. So in this regard, we look at the episode and we say, how would this help students if we're going to try to take some of this, bring it to the classroom? How is this helping students?
So the biggest takeaway for me from our friend, Mr. Clemens, was how important the application piece of reading is. And here was something really important that was discussed in this episode. Shifting our eyes to visual print, meaning the words, is critical as we teach kiddos to read. We don't want to prompt kids to guess words. We want them to use their knowledge of the alphabetic code to decode words. But then obviously also using their knowledge of semantics, background knowledge, and vocabulary to backfill and to feed in and to help them recognize when they've read words correctly and confirm the pronunciation and add interest to what they've read. So, of course, integration is key. Nobody in this movement has said that meaning is not important. Nobody has said that. But the one thing that was missing and that we have to really be mindful of is paying attention to the words and the orthographic mapping in order to confirm and integrate all that good stuff. So that was a big takeaway for me. And you know what?
That was one of the things I thought about, and I'm glad you mentioned it.
That, you know, Faith really made it clear that we can't do this episode without thinking about students, because that's really what it's all about. It's not about me. It's not about Faith. It's not about just the research. It really is about students. So I can't wait to hear yours, Faith.
So this I loved because I love analogies. So just like I love the one about the working out and the stretch text, I loved Nathan's analogy with the training wheels and the balance bike. So he said, and I never thought about it this way, he said that training wheels are like predictable books. Why? Because if you pull those types of things away, they still can't ride a bike and they still can't read. So once you take the training wheels off, there's so much support there that they have not learned how to navigate it. The same with predictable books. You pull out the predictable text and then you're left with words they can't read. They're not reading. What he said was a balance bike without pedals forces the kid to try to balance and navigate how to keep themselves up like a decodable book. So they are practicing something that transitions them into authentic text. So if we're looking at student outcomes, we have to be thinking about that piece. Are we giving them too much support and they're not getting anywhere? Are we not giving them enough support? Or are we giving them the type of support to help them transition into what they need to be doing? So that's my last takeaway because I love that analogy. And believe it or not, we hit 17 minutes this time, getting closer.
Ben, this was amazing. I love Takeaway Tuesday. And one thing I want to add, we're not going to do any closing or anything. We're going to keep it simple. Thank you to so many viewers that are already taking away from our episodes as well. There were so many people, including Leslie Lord. Who else did some takeaways, Faith? Do you remember? Online?
Catherine Cook actually came up with 3 of her own, and I reposted hers, and that's what we want to hear. These are ones that we think left an impression on us, but we want to hear from you. So we'll leave it at that. Have a great day, and I hope you're getting something out of this because we're trying to process this just like you are. Where, we listen to people and we try to take it in and we want to be reflective. So we hope you're getting something out of this. All right. Thank you.